all need to say good morning. I see some new faces here that I've become friends with in the last week. So that's pretty cool. As you all know, we meet, just for Joni's benefit, we meet every Thursday at 8 o'clock in the morning, except for the last Thursday of the month when we meet at 4 in the afternoon to have a social hour kind of version. Bring your own refreshment, be it a beer, a vodka, or whiskey, it doesn't really matter. Come and join us, and it would be a lot of fun. So today we have a person we've known for quite a few years that I love hearing from all the time. I get an email every morning from her. It's Joni. Joni is here for today's speech in person as well as in your email basket if you sign up for the Farmington Voice. Joni Hubred is the editor, owner, whatever the term is, and Joni can tell us in a second what she really is and what she really does. But Joni has been to us as a speaker before in Rotary as an author. And she was telling us about one of her experiences with the history of the Farmington area. And I remembered when I read the email every morning, I go, you know, Joni should come along and tell us what the hell's going on so I don't have to read it. So
I know what the hell's going on sometimes.
Joni believes she knows what's going on in Farmington Rotary, or in Farmington and Farmington Hills. Mm-hmm. And Farmington Rotary is the Rotary for Farmington and Farmington Hills, even though we have a one-word title. So I'm going to let Joni take over, and if you need to be sharing something, Joni, just let me know, and I'll enable it for you.
Yep, I do have a little bit of a slideshow.
Okay, you want to do it now?
Actually, yes. I
well,
think
you're now enabled. At least everybody should be enabled, but you're
okay.
You should be able to share now.
All right, share screen.
And you can share the screen, and we'll all be able to see it.
Okay, keynote. There you go. Wow.
Technology at work.
Okay. This is really cool. I've never done this.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I like technology.
Wow. Okay. So you may or may not know that in May of this year, Farmington Voice received a Facebook Journalism Project grant of $25,000, which was...
I thought you were going to say you were going to get 16 million there. You had me.
No. No, they spread that across 200 local newsrooms, some much larger than mine. But
I didn't know this. This is really cool.
Yeah. The project was designed to support primarily independently owned news organizations that covered specific geographic areas or covered specific demographic communities, particularly underserved communities. And the funds are to be used to support content production and reporting, but also this is an effort toward the sustainability of local journalism. I belong to a group called the Local Independent Online News Publishers, or LION Publishers. We share information, and a great deal of that information centers around sustainability, generating revenues, and how we can best serve our community. So a number of LION members received this grant. We are part of a group, an online group that's sharing best practices and innovative ideas to not only serve the public, but also serve our business community. And that's particularly important now because a lot of businesses are struggling and, may not have the funds to promote themselves, to get the word out about what they're doing. So with this grant, what I've done is reserved some of the funds to support businesses with advertising grants, with more affordable advertising options to try to help them get through this time as well. So it's been a real exciting project to be a part of. So this is the very first story, very first COVID-19 story I did. It's dated March 11th. And this was the day after the first cases were confirmed in Michigan.
Mm.
And it just happened to be a Farmington school board meeting, and they were talking about the things that they were already doing, including limiting travel and having the custodians do a new protocol for disinfecting surfaces. They even they got a machine that uses like I think it's like an electrostatic charge to quickly disinfect large objects. So even back then, they were preparing for, some sort of COVID exposure here in Farmington. Since that time, I've written 283 stories about COVID-19.
It's certainly a focus.
It's definitely a focus because COVID-19 is affecting virtually every corner of our community. And in ways I think that I certainly didn't expect. I'm sure, I can't imagine anyone who was out there saying, yeah, this is where we're going to be in August. It's just been phenomenal. No. It has swept through. So on March 12th, of course, the schools closed, and they closed through April 5th initially, and then we're closed for the rest of the year. And that's when we started publishing what I call the cancellation stories. It was, once the schools closed, it was the Greater Farmington Film Festival. The cities then closed. Bottom right-hand corner there is the Euchre tournament that the Exemplar Club runs, and that was canceled.
Oh, wow.
And then it was stay-at-home orders, and, the cities shut down city halls, the libraries shut down. Businesses closed. Restaurants were at 50% capacity, then they were closed down for just carry out or delivery. Grocery delivery services were overwhelmed. I was a very big fan of Instacart and Shipt, and trying to get a grocery delivery date during that time was nearly impossible. And of course, we had the great toilet paper shortage of 2020. Which I don't know about you, but I still stock up. Now that I can get it, I still stock up. But
so we know where to go if we need toilet paper.
I'm sorry?
We know where to go if we need toilet paper.
There you go. I've got it. I've got you hooked up. In fact, my sister who lives in Florida, they were kind of dealing with this later than we were. And we were talking one day, and she said, man, it's just impossible to get toilet paper down here. And I said, would you like me to ship you a box? Because I got a little extra. So, and that's when we, after that all sort of started to fall and people started to, kind of hunker down. That's when these kinds of stories started rolling in. People just started taking care of each other. I started picking up stories on Facebook. There were Facebook groups that formed. Some were already in existence. There's something called Nextdoor, which is an app that you can get for your phone. I believe they're also a website that is neighborhood specific. So you can sign up for a particular geographic area. And I was seeing people who were posting saying, I'm going to the grocery store. Does anybody need anything?
Yep, that worked.
And letting people know what's on the grocery store shelves, where's the best place to get supplies, who's got disinfectant wipes, who's got toilet paper and paper towels. It was really remarkable how people came together. The charities, you can see these are all headlines of stories that we did. Charities adapted. Cares of Farmington Hills started doing a drive-up food distribution. They also hosted a mobile food pantry. The Sunflower Bakehouse was an incredible story. They typically do bread deliveries for charities. At the end of the day, if they have leftover bread, they take them out to the charities. But people were stocking up, and they didn't have bread left at the end of the day. So they asked folks, they reached out on Facebook and said, if you will donate just a small amount of money, I think it was $1 or $2, that will help us to, with the supplies to make these extra loaves of bread. And I think it was probably 4 or 5 weeks when they said, you know what, we have enough money now for the end of the year, through the end of the year.
Good.
People just really stepped up with that one. People were donating supplies and PPE to Beaumont, to Farmington Hills Police Department, Farmington Public Safety, to the fire department. Restaurants were delivering meals directly to, hospital emergency rooms. The Farmington Kindness Rally and Crop Walk, those two went virtual. The Crop Walk was really interesting because they had people sharing video of themselves walking in their own neighborhoods. So it was really fun. There was a Facebook post about a senior living community. One of their employees said, it would be really cool if school kids, while they're home, could send cards and letters to our seniors here. And they were quarantining the mail that they got, so they knew it would be safe. And there were a number of facilities that requested those, and I know that they got them because they were posting pictures of them as they came in. Farmington Voice was also a beneficiary of that charitable attitude. A woman named Beverly Church, who lives I believe she lives in Farmington, just called me up one day and said, I'm a retired reporter. Is there anything that I can do to help you?
Wow.
And so I had her work on a number of stories. The first story she did was the Farmington Area Faith Community Finds Ways to Connect. She contacted pastors and church members and talked about how they were doing Zooms and Facebook Lives and virtual worship services and those types of things. Farmington Area Performers, School of Rock in Farmington, which teaches young kids through adults how to play rock music. They developed an online presence and a way for kids to connect with their instructors through Zoom. There's a group called Thistle Rose Theater, Thistle Rose Academy of Theater Arts. If you're looking for a real interesting speaker, I'd suggest Rachel Rose, who is their owner, artistic director. And I can send you, Phil, I can send you her contact information.
Please do.
Yeah, they were in the middle of planning a musical production and took their rehearsals onto Zoom, which I can't even imagine how you do that, but they did it. There was a Farmington Hills resident who is a high school teacher at Roper high school, and he put together a virtual choir with Zoom and recorded his kids because they couldn't have an end of the year concert. And that went onto YouTube and got quite a bit of traffic with that.
Cool.
Yeah, the pictures that you're seeing there of the masks, there's a woman in Farmington who still has a memory quilt business. And when this happened, she dropped everything she was doing. She talked to the clients that she was working with and said, hey, I want to do this mask project. In March, she had already sewed 1,000 masks that largely went to healthcare workers. And she is up, I believe, over 5,000 or 6,000 masks.
My goodness.
That she literally puts out on her porch for people to take if they need them. And she only asks for a donation, for the cost of the goods and the services. And there are so many mask makers in our community.
Yes, there are.
And they're so generous and so creative. And just so you know, these stories all happened within about 2 weeks.
Right.
In March.
That was the good thing one of the good things that came out of COVID.
Absolutely. This was...
we found we can be human after all.
Exactly. and then things started to change a little bit. And this was where I first kind of noticed some pushback, particularly on social media, but also in conversations that I
Right.
had with people. When the city of Farmington Hills decided to cancel all of its major events, and they canceled Art on the Grand, and this was 2 months before the event was scheduled to happen, the response was, you know, this is an outdoor event. Why do you have to cancel this? We need some normalcy in our lives. People are not going to be exposed because everybody's outdoors. Well, I don't know if you've ever been to Art on the Grand, but there are times when Grand River is just packed,
Oh,
especially.
wow.
Yeah. But I think at that point, I mean, I honestly believe that people thought we were going to be just fine in, a month or two.
Yeah.
And, actually when they canceled the Founders Festival, there was not as much pushback. That's when I heard people say, well, good, then you can do it better next year, because, nobody liked being down in Shiawassee Park, or most people, I guess. And so the thought was, all right, fine, if you're going to cancel it, but, do some thinking and sharpen your pencils and bring it back better than ever. The bright spot in all this, I think probably our best COVID story, local COVID story, has been the Farmington Farmers Market.
Yep.
I don't know if you know this. We did a podcast interview with Walt Gajewski, the market manager. He had COVID-19. So yeah, right early on, I believe it was like middle of March or so. So he was particularly mindful of, the impacts of COVID on the market. He was talking daily with the Farmers Market Association, the Michigan group, the national group. He was tracking CDC guidelines. He was, talking with state officials. There were webinars that he went to. Walt was absolutely determined, if it was at all possible, to open the market on its traditional opening day, which I believe is the third Saturday in May, second or third. And that's what happened. The market opened, though, with only growers. I believe there were 4 or 5 vendors who the only thing they had was produce. And it was very focused on just getting people in and getting them back out. Focused on getting people the healthy food they needed and doing it very safely. But that went so well that Walt decided in the second week to add flowers. And the transformation at that point was remarkable. I believe they doubled the attendance that second weekend. And, I took a walk around the market, and everything just looked brighter and more colorful, and it just felt more like our farmers market. So I think people responded to that, and the word started to get out in the community. Walt brought in a few more vendors every week. There was still an option for people to pre-order and just, run in and pick things up. But that loosened up a little bit, and people were able to walk through the market a little bit more freely. Walt will tell you very proudly that the market is 100% mask compliant now. And the last number I heard, which I don't think was last week, I think it was the week before that, was there were 4,000 people coming through the market at one point or another on Saturday morning.
That's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. And to have everybody, because they've got people stationed at both entrances, and you just don't get in without a mask.
Wow.
They will offer, if you don't have a mask, if you don't want to wear a mask, a volunteer will offer to go in and get what you need and bring it out to you.
Hi.
Yeah. And Walt has been very conscientious about that. So like I said, it's been a success story. And as you can see, there's a new banner up there. The market for the 4th year won the WDIV for the best contest. So And these are all the volunteers that help out at the market as well. So a lot of people who get up really early on Saturday morning to make sure that we all have a lot of fun and good, fresh, healthy produce.
I don't think I see Walt in there.
I think he was taking the picture.
Of course he was.
Oh, wait. No, he's like way in the back, I think, on the left. I think that's him. I could be wrong, but, or yeah. So that's, that's been really such a highlight, and such, that's given me a lot of hope about,
We need that.
about how people can work together to make something like this happen. And we also have in downtown Farmington now, we have some new businesses opening, which I think is just absolutely remarkable. There's a Mexican restaurant that's going to open where Tina's Coney Island was, in that strip in the downtown Farmington Center. And then it was a Mediterranean restaurant that's next to the old Hershey's ice cream store. That is going to be a Philly cheesesteak kind of sandwich shop.
You're going to continue with the share?
Yes, I have one more slide.
That's okay. Yep.
So there are a lot of good things happening, even while we're, going through all of this.
As we continue to go through them.
Yeah. So that kind of brings me to the things that I worry about, the things that concern me, that are going to guide Farmington Voice reporting in the coming months. I worked the March primary. I also worked the August. Yeah, this last August primary. I don't know how to. My head just didn't work there for a minute. And the differences were remarkable. In March, it was, it was like, I think it was like March 8th. It was before, all of the madness started, but people were still aware that, they wanted to use their own pens. They wanted to distance, if they heard somebody cough, it was like, in August, we had primarily the absent voter ballots, but we still, in my precinct in Farmington, we had about 135 people come through. And I worry about November because in August, we had a number of precinct workers who typically work the election who decided they were not going to because they had health problems or they had a spouse with health problems. So I think the need for election workers is going to be critical in November. So if you know anybody who has any interest in that at all, have them contact their city clerk. Farmington Hills and Farmington are both going to need people for the November election. We also have 10 school board candidates for 3 seats. So that's going to be very interesting. And of course, what's going on around in the rest of the country. So that's something that we're going to, as the weeks go on here, we're going to bring you more information about the candidates and the issues that are going to be on the ballot. I think there are going to be repercussions for remote learning at Farmington Public Schools. The number of the parents who stood up and spoke on Tuesday night when they voted to do this, and there were well, they didn't actually speak up. The school board read their comments. Said, my husband and I both work, or my wife and I are both critical, essential employees. We work in hospitals. How are we going to help our children? How are we going to help our children learn? There are families that are experiencing domestic violence and food insecurity, families that relied on the schools as a safe place to go, to physically go for their children to get meals and to have just that safe, secure environment. When you think about it, how many adults are in a school building? Those adults are all impacting the lives of every child in that building. So having remote learning through October 30th, I think is going to be a real challenge for the district and for parents. We don't know yet what the impact of COVID-19 is going to be on city, school, and library budgets, but there have already been expenses that the cities for sure believe are going to be covered by federal aid. But what we don't know yet is the impact on property taxes, property values, how the state is going to balance its budget. And then nonprofit organizations in our community have had to cancel major fundraising events. And those funds are pass-through funds. They go to kids programs, and they go to seniors, and they go to just other organizations in our community that are helping people. So I think that's something that we're going to see the impact of certainly this year, but into next year as well. Business losses, I haven't really heard about many of those yet. We did lose the Panera on Grand River. They were planning to open a drive-through window, and they were due to submit plans for that in March, and those plans just didn't come forward, and then they closed the place down. But that's been the big one. I think most of the businesses in our community that were closed have now reopened and are offering some type of service. Restaurants are now they're back at being able to serve people indoors to a limited degree. There's still a lot of carry out, a lot of delivery going on. And then I was trying to think, there was something. Oh, the cities of Farmington and Farmington Hills have loosened up their restrictions to help businesses survive. And I think that's been, for some of them, I think that's been a really huge, huge boost. There's a cigar bar in downtown Farmington that has expanded out in the back and now has tables and chairs and umbrellas. It's a really nice little seating area. On the other side of Grand River, Farmington Brewing Company has a little outdoor area, and the One Up Arcade Bar, which is above Basement Burger Bar, they also have a really nice seating area in the back with umbrellas, and they're bringing in music, I think once or twice a week.
That's
So
good.
there's a balance. I mean, it seems to me right now we're not losing as much in our business community as I anticipated we would, but time will tell as we go on. And then the thing that concerns me the most right now is the divide in our community.
Oh yeah.
It's huge. I didn't anticipate that. I ran a project with the help of the COVID grant called F2H Mask Up. And when the governor issued the masks required order, and I started seeing, just on social media, how people were just getting crazy about it, I thought, okay, let's encourage people by, just showing them their friends and neighbors wearing masks, and maybe doing it creatively, maybe, having a colorful mask, something like that. So when I first posted that story to social media, the very first post got so many ridiculously, just negative comments.
Nasty, yep.
It really was, and people started attacking each other. So I decided I just had to, kind of make an executive decision that we just weren't going to promote that on Facebook. I promoted it largely on Instagram, which is a much kinder, gentler social media platform. It really is. I've been posting pictures of people masked up on Instagram, and it's people just don't get into the nasty comments and name calling and things like that. But I think that masks is just is sort of just a thing to hang what's going on in our community, to hang that on. It's people are tired, people are still afraid, and that has just deepened the divide in our community. I think we're just all getting very weary of this, and
Yep.
hopefully, as time goes on and things hopefully get better, that some of this will dissipate. But we're also dealing with the racial issues in our community, and that's going to continue well past COVID-19. So we've got some challenges ahead. I haven't seen as many of those positive stories as I did in March, but I think that just means I need to go looking for them a little bit harder. So we'll be doing some of that as well. So that's my presentation. I'd be happy to answer questions if you have any, and we can stop the screen sharing.
Yep.
Question?
Yes.
What do you mean by racial incidents during this time? What's been happening in our community?
So
ugliness go.
Yeah. So after the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis, young people in our community got very concerned that they weren't seeing the response from Farmington and Farmington Hills that they felt should be, that they wanted to see more awareness.
Yeah, can you turn off the share?
Oh, sorry. Yikes.
No problem.
Wait, where's I can't find my cursor. Wait, how do I, wait, let's see.
There you go.
Oh, wait,
Nope.
wait. No, I'm going back.
You're just going backwards.
Yep. Okay, remote control. I can't seem to do that. Well, there's escape. Okay, let's see if I can do it now.
There you
Now
go.
I can do it. Okay.
You're good.
Here's the lesson learned. You have to get out of your presentation in order to stop screen sharing. Keep that in mind.
Technology.
Exactly. So it was there were actually two separate groups of young people who took this as an opportunity to do some peaceful demonstrations and talk about the importance of unity, and to kind of hold up the Black Lives Matter movement. But there have been a number of racial incidents, particularly in our schools. There were, going back, there was, I believe 3 or 4 years ago, there was a young man whose family, sorry about that, whose family pulled him out of Farmington Public Schools after he was treated fairly roughly by a teacher who kind of yanked him out of his chair to force him to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, which was something that his family didn't believe in. Their belief is you pledge it, you pledge only to God. And so there was that. There was an incident at Harrison High School where there was an administrator who had a mic on for a videotaping, and on that mic, well, there were some cheerleaders out doing an act who are largely African Americans, so they looked like strippers, which is just not something you do on a hot mic. There have been incidents of African American kids in our special education program who have not been treated well. There was a young child who ended up with scratches on his arm because he was treated roughly by an aide. But it's been almost every year there's been one incident or another, and those are the ones we know about. There are also people in the community who are sharing some of these stories and sharing their experiences of the inequities that are going on, and trying to raise awareness of that. And that's all gotten some boost from what's going on in our country as well.
Thank you. So a teacher forced a child to stand up sounds like assault and battery.
That's what the parents felt. Yeah, definitely.
Do not lay a hand on anybody, I don't think.
Exactly. exactly. And that's
Assault and battery, it's a crime.
just, yep, they just didn't, and they felt they didn't get satisfaction from the school district in the way that was handled. And so they just moved their child out of the district.
Tragic.
Yeah, it was very sad. He is a remarkable young man too. He's very bright, and yeah. So
I thought it's rather settled. The pledge is something you can say if you want to, but you don't have to.
I thought so too. I did, but
I like the old pledge before they changed it in '54.
that is before my time, thankfully.
That was then a pledge.
Yep.
There was an old pledge?
Well, when they add under God, you're throwing
Oh, I get it. Okay.
aspect to it. First of all, you're pledging your allegiance, and then you throw in your religious belief.
I thought it was a separation of church and state.
It's a difficult barrier being
Yeah.
pushed down many times.
Good morning, Farmington Rotary. Hi, Joni. I really enjoyed your presentation.
Thank you.
I'm visiting from the Auburn Hills Rotary Club. I have a question about, just to follow up on what you mentioned about incidents in the Farmington schools from time to time. Do you know if there is a diversity and inclusion officer or diversity, equity, inclusion programming with the schools?
You know, the school district is in the process right now of hiring an assistant superintendent for diversity and inclusion. We had a remarkable, I call him a young man because to me he is one, but his name is Aaron Johnson. His doctoral thesis is a book about educating young Black men, and particularly as it relates to literacy. He resigned. I have been trying to get in touch with him to find out why, and we keep sort of missing each other. But I believe there were some issues within the district administration that caused him to resign, which is very troubling. But they are in the process now of trying to hire a person for that. We just got a new superintendent last year, and he's been shaking up the administration a bit. So, you know, that's part of it is still a little bit unsettled.
That's progress that they're looking to hire someone. So
Yeah.
good to hear that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions, everybody?
Joni, do you have any comment in the direction of the city's response to downtown business community? And I'm thinking in terms of something like a block grant or anything. Did the city actually go out and look for assistance funding for the small business person in downtown Farmington?
The city has done a number of things, but the Downtown Development Authority has sort of spearheaded that. That is, for those of you who aren't familiar, in downtown Farmington, we have a geographically delineated area from which the city captures, or the Downtown Development Authority is authorized to capture taxes, and those dollars go directly toward, you know, improvements in the downtown business district. The DDA has worked with Oakland County. Kate Knight, who is our DDA director, and Kevin Christensen, who is the Economic and Community Development Director, were both involved with the distribution of Oakland County grants. So Farmington got a real leg up there. There were a number of businesses that received those dollars to help them out with personal protection equipment and signage and all the things they needed to do to make their workplaces a little more safe. The DDA ran a kind of a GoFundMe campaign that ended up being fully funded to give business owners some additional dollars to purchase personal protection equipment. Oakland County also did kits, reopening kits when businesses were getting ready to reopen, that helped them out with hand sanitizer and masks and gloves and things like that. So there really has been a lot of support for downtown businesses, and the DDA is also now starting to run some virtual events. They've done a virtual ladies' night out, which was remarkably successful on Facebook. And it gave businesses the opportunity to, to present their wares for sale, for people to purchase online and then pick up. So they're doing that again, and I believe they're also talking about doing a restaurant week later this month. So there is a lot going on in downtown Farmington to support those businesses.
Usually I only see highlights, if that. So it's always good to hear a summary from a viewpoint like yours in the community. So thank you.
Thank you.
As an outsider, meaning I don't live in Farmington or Farmington Hills, you give me, an outsider, a very brief description of the two areas that we're talking about, Farmington and Farmington Hills, how geographically what they are?
Sure. So we all started out together in Farmington Township, which was 36 square miles.
Wow.
And the village of Farmington sort of formed in the middle of that. If you look at the map, there's a small area that kind of pops up and comes over like that and around like that and down like that. It's a kind of an odd shaped community when you think about it. But we are completely surrounded by Farmington Hills, except for a little bit of Livonia on the 8-mile border. So that's Farmington. And then Farmington Hills is, their population, of course, is much larger. I think they're around 90,000 people. We are more like 10,000. But if you talk to people in Farmington Hills, downtown Farmington is their downtown.
Yeah.
Sometimes people don't know they live in Farmington Hills, but they think they live in Farmington. I've heard from people like that who are very surprised to learn that they lived in Farmington Hills. So that's kind of how the communities work together. They share a library system, a school system. Farmington pays the city of Farmington Hills to run senior division programs. They cooperate on quite a few things. They're actually, both cities are working together now on a plan to revitalize the Founders Festival. One of the things I didn't mention was that one of the casualties, so to speak, of COVID was that the Chamber of Commerce, which had owned the Founders Festival, decided that they could no longer support it. So it's kind of hanging out there waiting for somebody to come and rescue it.
Oh, so there is no Founders Festival in the future, for the moment at least?
For the moment, if you talk to Farmington Mayor Sarah Bowman, there will be a Founders Festival in 2021. There will not be one in 2020 because of the pandemic. They had already canceled it, but she is absolutely determined to organize some sort of community group to put something together next July.
Cool.
Yep.
Any other questions, guys and gals?
Gee, I had another one because of a comment that you made, and it just...
Don't tell me you've forgotten it already.
You'll think of it at like 3 o'clock in the morning, text me, email me, I'll answer it.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
I actually have a question for you.
Yeah.
Aside from promoting your meetings, which I promise to do better with, what is there anything else that I can do to support the Rotary or that Farmington Voice can do?
Well, there is an upcoming event that we're trying to we're putting together. We've already got it sort of underway. We're actually going to do a virtual wine tasting.
Ooh, lovely.
So
way to go.
The concept, it's going to be September 24th. And the idea is you buy a ticket. We will get you 3 bottles of wine from Michigan by the Bottle Company. and it'll be three wines from a Michigan winery. And on the 24th, if you at 8 o'clock you join Zoom, and you will be taken through the tasting. You'll do the actual tasting in your home.
Oh yeah.
But the virtual part will be a host who will take you through the actual wine tasting and tell you about the different wines and have you imagine what you're tasting, whatever a wine tasting really does. Oh, that tastes like rubber. That's terrible.
I work. I have worked part-time for the Cheese Lady in downtown Farmington, and they have done virtual wine and cheese tastings that have been extremely popular.
Oh, cool. Maybe
so,
we'll be successful.
Yep. There is definitely a market for that.
So we'll be getting the word out somehow.
Okay.
We're in the middle of trying to make some graphics to get out there, but you'll be able to buy a ticket online. There'll be the notion is your house will be a tasting house.
Okay.
And depending on how good you feel about having other people in your house, you could invite friends or family within limitations, of course,
Sure.
to join in the wine tasting with you. So you'd have a little mini party. The mini party might be just you or you and your immediate family, but the wine tasting will go ahead, and we think it's a good way to still get people together, because even groups like this where we can see all our faces, you can join in. The actual commentary or comments from people who are tasting the wine might be a little chaotic, but who knows? We'll enjoy it regardless.
I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun. It sounds like it's going to be fun.
Yep, I'll get you some information on it soon.
Great. Sounds
Okay,
good.
folks, remember this has been recorded. So if you want to come back and check on some facts, or remember if you heard it correctly, you can go to the Farmington Rotary Club, and on the left-hand side, there's a library link. Rotary Virtual Meeting Library is the link. It takes you to YouTube, and you can see any of the most recent meetings. There's about 10 of them now. You can go see the school superintendent from West Bloomfield. You can go, a very good one for those interested in the COVID information is a gentleman from, he's nearly Dr. Fauci, but his name is Dr. Faust. He's the Oakland County health guy, specialist, and he gave a great presentation, a really good, kind of scary presentation.
Right. Okay.
He's one of those guys that says, basically, this will go on forever.
Okay.
You didn't make everybody happy, but the information he gave was very, very good. He was explaining how the testing works, how your actual testing takes place, and what's a good test and what's a bad test, and the fact that in some cases that if you go for testing, you might get the results in 2 weeks. By that time, you're no longer infectious anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the meeting. The recording will be up in about maybe a few hours. At latest would be tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And next week, we actually have a little group from Farmington Schools, who are coming in to tell us about the school situation. That should be really good now that they've made a decision of how to go forward. So that'll be fresh information. They'll be on. There's 3 of them coming in at the same time. So this should be a busy little meeting next week.
All right.
Okay, guys, I'll turn it off now, and you can go do your day, as they say.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
No
Thank
problem.
you, Joni.
Thanks, everybody, for joining.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.